Welcome to the journey of exploring ancient houses, hidden on steep cliffs, where people have lived for thousands of years despite the challenges of nature. These structures are not only shelters, but also a testament to human resilience, intelligence, and strong survival instincts. Who built them? Why did they choose these remote places to make their homes? What has kept them there for centuries, in isolation, between the sky and the rocks? Each wall, each worn step over time, carries a story of mysteries that have never been fully unraveled. Today, we will step into that world, listening to the echoes from the cliffs, feeling the breath of time weaving through the crevices of the rocks, and searching for answers among the remnants of the past. Get ready for a journey that not only explores space, but also touches the depths of history and humanity. The silent space throughout the year seems to be awakened. The sound of water melting from the ice flows gently through the crevices of the rocks. The spring breeze blows through the ancient steps, bringing with it the fresh breath of the earth and sky. The houses clinging to the mountainside, despite having endured many cold winters, still stand there, like silent witnesses of time. The treacherous paths leading here are now covered in shades of green, as if nature is trying to blur the loneliness. Perhaps it is spring that has brought this place a new soul, a revival after months of slumber in the cold. This mountain has stood there for thousands of years, silently witnessing the many changes of time. The steep cliffs were once a refuge for those who came before, individuals who etched their names into history with blood, sweat, and the mysteries that have never been fully told. The story begins in ancient times, when war spread across the land. To escape the pursuit of their enemies, a group of people sought a way to the top of this treacherous mountain. They did not carry much, just a few bags of provisions and rudimentary tools, but they had the most important thing, the determination to survive. The cliffs are steep, and the path upward consists only of narrow trails along the rocky outcrops. But they did not falter. They built houses, clinging to the rock face, piecing together logs and stones to create a shelter. Gradually, from a small group, they constructed an entire village suspended in the sky. Then, the war broke out. The enemy could not find a way up the cliff, but they did not give up. They surrounded the foot of the mountain, waiting, looking for ways to cut off the supply lines. But those above did not easily fall. They found ways to survive by making use of everything nature provided. Water from the crevices, food from wild plants, and even flocks of birds sheltering on the cliff. Occasionally in the night, a few figures quietly descend, bringing news and a little food from secret allies below. Every step on the cliff is a gamble with death. Some leave and never return, but they have no other choice. The war lasted long, but the time was even longer than the war itself. One day, the enemy withdrew. The battlefield cooled, but the people on the cliff had no one to return to. They had bound their fate to this place, and the generations that followed continued to live among the sky and the stones, carrying within them the story of their ancestors. Nowadays, those houses still remain, clinging to the cliff as if challenging time itself. When the night wind blows, some say that sometimes they still see the shadow of someone quietly walking on the worn stone steps. The souls that have never left this place, still listening to the echoes of a time long gone. In summer, the cliffs that have witnessed countless lives now welcome the footsteps of curious travelers. They come from all over, bringing excitement and a bit of hesitation before the treacherous paths, which were once a refuge for ancient people. Tourists come and then leave. They take with them photos and stories, but perhaps the most haunting feeling is standing on the edge of the abyss, looking down at the steep paths that have brought many people here and perhaps have never truly let them leave completely. A cold wind swept through, carrying a piece of tattered white fabric from the corner of the altar. When it fell to the ground, what lay beneath stunned everyone. Small footprints, imprinted on the thick layer of dust. They stretched from the main door deep into the hall, but there were no traces leading back out. Suddenly, the large bell hanging in the yard rang softly. The sound of metal clashing echoed in the air, each deep toll lingering like an invitation from another realm. No one touched the bell, and no breeze was strong enough to make it sway, yet the sound continued to resonate in the twilight sky. The space felt frozen. A chill radiated from that figure, filling the entire room. Her head slowly tilted to one side, then completely leaned at an unnatural angle. Her eyes were white and soulless, staring directly at the uninvited guests. No one screamed, no one had time to turn and run. A strong gust of wind swept through, slamming the temple door shut, trapping everyone in darkness. And in that thick night, the bell continued to toll, one chime after another. The space was so silent that one could hear each snowflake gently touching the ground. The large wooden pillars of the temple had faded over the years, still adorned with old silk ribbons, quietly swaying in the biting wind. Inside the shrine, the dim oil lamp flickered as if it were about to go out. But who had lit it? A sudden, strong wind swept in, causing the main door to creak. Inside, darkness enveloped every corner, leaving only the Buddha statue standing tall, its compassionate smile seemingly shifting with the flickering light. On the dust and snow-covered tiles, those footprints vanished right before the altar. No escape, no secret door. Then, in the stillness, a bell rang out. Deep and prolonged, it pierced through the layers of falling snow. From the altar, something stirred gently. A figure silently stepped out from the darkness, its white robe flowing, long hair covering its face. Its bare feet glided lightly over the cold, snowy ground, leaving no trace behind. The air became thick. The chill was no longer just that of winter, but something deeper, as if the entire space was trapped in an unnameable pain. And then, that figure stopped before the altar, slowly raising its head. A pale face appeared in the dim light, empty eyes, lips moving as if wanting to say something. A drop of blood flowed from the corner of the mouth onto the white snow, spreading into an unusual red streak in this cold world. Hidden among the dense forest, high above the old treetops, there is a small straw house that few know about. No one knows who built it, nor has anyone ever seen its owner appear. It is only known that every time dusk falls, the house seems to glow in the evening light, as if it is breathing, quietly observing the world below. Sometimes, there are lost souls who find their way here, seeing that little house among the trees. Some curious ones climb up, step inside, and discover nothing but layers of dry straw piled on top of each other. But there is one strange thing. When they lie down, close their eyes, they feel as if a hand is running through their hair, as if soothing, as if welcoming. The villagers living near the forest still share stories about those who have disappeared. Lost travelers, brave hunters, and even well-equipped exploration teams. They enter the deep woods and never return. A few lucky individuals who escaped all speak of shadowy figures moving between the treetops, strange whispers echoing in the night, and eyes watching from the darkness. The curious still come, drawn by mysterious legends. And then, one day, a group of archaeologists entered the Forbidden Land, carrying torches and a belief in science. They did not believe in tales of ancient deities or barbaric rituals, but this forest does not need anyone to believe in it. It only needs prey to step inside. The shadows slithered out from the trees, moving quickly and silently like predatory animals. They carried no weapons, but none were needed. Their hands were long, with claws sharp as a beast's, their bodies lean yet strong. Those who were caught had no time to scream, as they were dragged into the darkness, leaving only long streaks of blood on the damp ground. The survivors wake up in a village made of bones and human skin. They are tied to wooden posts in front of a massive stone altar where human skulls are piled up. The tribe members kneel around the stone altar, their bodies covered in strange markings, and the masks they wear cannot hide their wild, bloodthirsty eyes. The journey has come to an end, but the marks it left behind remain intact. Each step has traversed dense forests, pristine villages, ancient temples, and treacherous cliffs. Every place carries a story, and each moment holds a unique emotion: wonder, excitement, sometimes fear, and also moments of silence in the face of the world's mysteries. This journey is not only an exploration of distant lands, but also a dialogue with oneself. We have witnessed the miraculous, faced our own limitations, and felt small amidst the majestic nature and mysteries beyond our understanding. When we think of humanity's greatest masterpieces, we tend to imagine them nestled in the heart of cities or spread across gentle, forgiving valleys. Yet in China, the most breathtaking creations of all time were carved directly into the clouds, balanced on the knife edge of mountains that dare you to look down. These are places where nature asserts its absolute dominion, and where human beings, in defiance of every limit, have built things that outlast empires. From walkways that hang over sheer cliff faces to sanctuaries that dissolve into ancient forest, each destination holds within it a profound and quietly radical philosophy of life. Join us on a journey through masterpieces of China's high mountains, where heaven meets earth and humanity learns to listen. There are places that force us to confront our deepest fears, and in doing so, offer us something close to peace. Huashan, a vast block of granite rising almost vertically from the plains of Shanxi, is precisely such a place. Westerners have long sought out great vertical faces, El Capitan, the Dolomites, to test the limits of the body. But the Taoist pilgrims who climbed Huashan for centuries carried a different intention entirely. They ascended in order to surrender. Each stone step was cut entirely by hand, leading upward to the terrifying plank walk in the sky. For more than 700 years, these wooden boards, barely 30 centimeters wide, have clung to the cliff face on hand-forged iron stakes, with nothing beneath them but the void. Yet the history of this vertical fortress is not just written by pilgrims, but by soldiers who turned these impossible cliffs into a theater of tactical genius. In the summer of 1949, a retreating army occupied the peaks, sealing off the only known heavily guarded pathway to the top, confident that no force on Earth could pierce the mountain's natural defenses. But a small band of 7 elite soldiers, guided through the pitch-black night by a local herb gatherer named Wang Minhai, did the impossible. They scaled the uncharted vertical cracks of the northeast ridge, a hidden path so steep that even monkeys feared to climb. By capturing the summit from behind, without firing a single shot until the final moments, they proved that on Huashan, the mind's resolve can shatter the most brutal physical barriers. To walk the boundary between life and death, whether in conflict or in silent contemplation, is to be stripped of everything unnecessary. Today, the measured whistles of mountain porters still echo along those vertical walls. Carrying 40 kilograms of supplies, their footsteps are as steady as granite itself, unhurried, enduring, and quietly magnificent. Welcome to the surreal landscape of Zhangjiajie, where more than 3,000 pillars of quartz sandstone thrust upward into the clouds like the ribs of some forgotten world. The scene echoes Bryce Canyon in the American West, yet instead of desert reds, everything here is drenched in the deep, ancient green of primordial Tertiary-era forest. This is not a landscape that calls you to conquer it. It calls you to disappear into it and find yourself again in the silence. Even in the Han Dynasty, the great strategist Zhang Liang chose to abandon wealth and power and vanish into these very cliffs. For centuries, this labyrinth remained an unmapped sanctuary until a single photograph and a master painter's obsession accidentally revealed its soul to the modern world. In the winter of 1979, a local forest worker named Hu Du King captured a raw, grainy photograph of the misty spires, which caught the eye of Wu Guanzhong, one of China's most celebrated master artists. Mesmerized by the impossible geometry, Wu journeyed into the wild valley, living in a crude bamboo hut alongside the local Tujia people just to paint the shifting fog, an artistic pilgrimage that single-handedly put Zhangjiajie on the global map. The indigenous Tujia people regard these columns, some rising over 400 meters, as sacred pillars holding up the sky, guardians of the hidden springs sleeping inside the mountain. Behind the ruggedness of the stone lies a rich interior world, one where Tujia brides still practice the ancient tradition of ritual weeping, a song of gratitude for the family they are leaving behind. Today, a glass bridge 430 meters long has been suspended 300 meters above the valley floor, connecting visitors to this natural fortress. It was not built to dominate the landscape, but to offer a new perspective from which to contemplate it. Beneath mists that shift and dissolve with each passing hour, Zhangjiaji whispers a quiet truth. Sometimes the peak of human experience is learning to sit with what cannot quite be seen. If Zhangjiaji is a surrealist labyrinth, then Huangshan is the mountain that defined the entire aesthetic soul of Chinese civilization. Its misty silhouettes recall the romantic alpine landscapes beloved by 19th-century European painters, Turner's storms, Friedrich's solitary peaks. But where Western artists sought a fixed, heroic viewpoint, those who came to Huangshan came to feel the impermanence of things, the endless movement of the sea of clouds. Layers of soft mist drifting above 1,800 meters are not empty space. They are an open invitation for the human spirit to complete the painting from within. This profound artistic truth was crystallized in the 17th century through the hands of Shitao, a fallen prince who fled the bloody collapse of his dynasty to become a wandering monk on these silent peaks. Broken by grief and searching for meaning, Shitao spent years sitting on the edge of the abyss, observing how the twisted pines clung fiercely to bare granite. He realized that nature was not an object to copy, but a reflection of his own resilient spirit. By declaring, "The mountains and rivers speak through me," and painting with raw, spontaneous ink strokes, his time on Huangshan permanently revolutionized Chinese landscape art, proving that true sight belongs to the soul. Since the 8th century, artists and pilgrims have painstakingly carved more than 60,000 stone steps along these sheer granite faces in pursuit of an absolute, irreducible beauty. They opened a path to the summit, but they did so with deep reverence for every living thing, keeping the mountain's springs unpolluted, its forests untouched. On the bare rock face, a 1,000-year-old welcoming pine still secretes its own acid to dissolve the stone around it, drawing sustenance from almost nothing and bowing in greeting to every passing traveler. For decades, its dedicated guardians, the so-called Pine Companions, have lived in voluntary solitude on the mountaintop, tending and speaking to their ancient charge as though to an old friend. That singular, unhurried devotion is the purest expression of mindfulness, a life offered entirely in service to the natural world. Huangshan closes our journey, not merely as a landscape, but as a philosophical space that teaches us to see the world not with our eyes alone, but with the fullness of our being. Deep in the heart of Guizhou, a solitary ecological island rises above the clouds at over 2,300 meters, Fanjing Mountain. The sheer isolation of this ancient fissured pillar of rock calls to mind France's Mont Saint-Michel, another sacred place adrift from the everyday world. But where Mont Saint-Michel proudly displays the sharp geometry of human ambition, Fanjing chooses instead to vanish entirely into its surroundings. Two small temples sit perfectly fitted upon two adjacent stone pinnacles, joined by a narrow stone bridge arching across a dizzying abyss. The creation of this gravity-defying sanctuary was a triumph of sheer human devotion, written in a historic stone tablet that still stands on the summit today. In the year 1618, after decades of war had scarred the land, a visionary monk named Master Miao Kong arrived with an imperial decree to rebuild the ruined shrines upon the twin spires. Battling fierce mountain storms and slopes so steep that a single misstep meant the void, Miao Kong rallied thousands of local Miao and Tujia villagers to perform the impossible. Battling fierce mountain storms and slopes so steep that a single misstep meant the void, Miao Kong rallied thousands of local Miao and Tujia villagers to perform the impossible. For the Miao and Tujia peoples, walking through the dense morning fog is not simply a hike, it is a spiritual rite, a shedding of the ordinary world. They have refused to commercialize this mountain, choosing instead to regard it as a living being that must be honored and protected in its entirety. Beneath the ancient canopy, generations of indigenous forest rangers still walk these paths each day to guard the rare gray snub-nosed monkey, a creature that has survived since the last ice age. Their mindful, rooted lives, bound to every tree and every stream, make Fanjing Mountain a living testament to the philosophy of harmony between humanity and the natural world. What might we discover if we simply stopped and let the natural current of the world carry us forward? In Hubei province, veiled within the layered mists of Wudang Mountain, that answer has stood for over 6 centuries. Here, architecture does not conquer the rock face. It dissolves into it, becoming one with the moss-covered stone. Look closely at the Golden Hall, a bronze temple weighing several tons, suspended at 1,612 meters above sea level since the 15th century. Our ancestors raised it without a single machine, laying the cornerstone of an entire Taoist civilization on the roof of the world. But the endurance of this sacred place relies not just on metal and stone, but on the silent flesh and blood witnesses who guarded it through history's darkest storms. During the decades of mid-20th century turmoil, when temples were abandoned and fires of destruction drew near, a young Taoist nun named Guo Mingshan refused to flee. Living on nothing but wild herbs and rainwater, she lived in total isolation on the freezing summit, using her own body to shield the ancient scriptures and keep the eternal flame of the Golden Hall from dying out. Her decades of solitary resistance proved the core of Taoist wisdom. True strength does not fight the storm. It outlasts it by becoming as still and unyielding as the mountain itself. Today, in the absolute stillness of the ancient forest, that same enduring spirit flows through the fluid movements of Tai Chi, rippling outward like a slow, deliberate breath. It is not merely a martial art from another age. It is a conversation between the self and the body, between effort and surrender, between yin and yang. It is the mindful, unhurried way of living that our restless, anxious modern world has never stopped searching for. Set aside the silence of high summits for a moment. The Yellow River at Huku Gorge greets you with the roar of something ancient and untamable. Where Western waterfalls tend to seduce with clarity and grace, Huku strips everything back to something raw and primordial. Its waters are a deep burnished yellow, heavy with sediment, surging like an inexhaustible pulse of the earth itself. A river 300 meters wide is suddenly throttled down to less than 30, crashing into the gorge below like the spout of some colossal, mythological vessel. This geological marvel shaped the water management philosophy of the legendary Emperor Yu as far back as the 21st century BCE. Guide the current, rather than dam it. But the truest weight of this river is felt when its thunder is translated into human art, serving as a historic sanctuary for a nation's unbroken spirit. In the bitter winter of 1939, during the darkest days of foreign invasion, the visionary composer Qian Xinghai stood on these very freezing cliffs, drenched in the yellow spray of the falls. Watching the local boatmen risk their lives against the violent eddies while shouting their rhythmic ancient work chants, he was so deeply moved that he captured the roar of Huku to write the Yellow River Cantata, an orchestral masterpiece that ignited the resilience of millions. For the people of the Loess Plateau, this ferocious river is not an adversary. It is the very source of life and cultural identity. Their rough-hewn resilience and quiet tenacity have been shaped by the wisdom of water-carving stone across 1,000 years of history. And somewhere along those canyon walls, the waterfall's roar still mingles with the hoarse, rhythmic chants of ancient boatmen, those who once gambled their lives to keep their oars moving through the raging current. The mountain masterpieces we have witnessed together stand as living proof. The pinnacle of human creativity is not the transformation of nature, but the art of living in harmony with it. Our ancestors spent centuries carving stone, casting bronze, and raising temples, leaving behind a heritage that hides in plain sight between earth and sky. The beauty of these mountains lies not only in their geological grandeur, but in the quiet, mindful, generous rhythm of the people who keep them alive. In a world that grows faster and louder with every passing year, these high-altitude wonders stand still. And if journeys like this one move something in you, subscribing to this channel is your way of keeping that flame alive and ensuring we can bring you more. Our journey ends here, but the spirit of these mountains and their ancient invitation to slow down and belong to something larger than ourselves will linger long after the screen goes dark.